Isn't it nice and warm?
Good evening. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Going to have the invocation by Commissioner Sharp, Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Frank. Please rise. Huh?
You said Sharp.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Irving. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. Sorry. Public for which it stands. Sorry about that, Commissioner Irving. It's because I got Commissioner Sharp on the brain because he's going to be a few minutes late. All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Here.
Commissioner Yocum?
Here?
Vice Chair Sharp?
Again, he'll
Chair
be a few minutes
Huggins.
late.
Chair Huggins?
Here.
Commissioner Irving?
Here.
Commissioner Frank? Here. Commissioner Babb? We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, call to public. I do have one card for a speaker card for when we do the public hearing, so we'll go ahead and hold that one. Anybody else would like to speak? Please go ahead and approach the podium. And we'll move on. All right, approval of the previous minutes, please.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. All right. 5.1, PH 21-01 is a public hearing, PAD 19-02 West. Excuse me, sorry, that was just a text. Commissioner Sharp is calling in right now. So this is a public hearing, PAD 19-02 West Maricopa Village, a request by Matrix Equities Incorporated on behalf of Maricopa 35 LLC to create the West Maricopa Village Planned Area Development, PAD, including the creation of the Development Land Use Plan, permitted use, and development standards for West Maricopa Village, a proposed mixed-use project. The property is generally located on the southeast corner of Loma Road and West Smith Inc. Road, State Route 238. Discussion and action.
Good evening, Chair Huggins, Commissioners. I'd like to open this to public hearing.
You want to do your presentation first, just in case you might be able to.
I was
answer.
instructed to open it to the public hearing first.
Want to open it first?
Hello, everyone. Sorry for the tardiness.
No problem, Commissioner Sharp. So,
However you prefer.
yeah, well, let's do the presentation
Okay.
first, just so that way you can answer any questions or
Sure.
potential questions and speed things along.
Okay, thanks, Chair. So this is for, as you previously stated, PAD 1903, West Maricopa Village. This is a request by Matrix Equities Incorporated on behalf of Maricopa 35 LLC. This PAD request will be creating the West Maricopa Village PAD, or Planned Area Development, including the Development Land Use Plan, permitted uses, development standards for West Maricopa Village, which is a future proposed mixed-use project. Excuse me. Just a quick review of the development process. Step one would be the general plan. We look at that. This project is conforming with the general plan designation of mixed use on this parcel. However, as we'll explain in the presentation, we are in step two, which is the rezoning step of the process. After this process, we will go to the preliminary plat and then final plat, approval in conformance with the PAD and the subsequent DRP applications. Site info, the site acreage is approximately 35.25 acres. It's not a site address, has not been assigned at this time. The existing zoning for the parcel is industrial, which is CI2. The proposed zoning will be to rezone to PAD, and as I previously stated, the general plan land use map identifies this parcel as mixed use. The location of the parcel is at State Route 238, Smith Inc. Road, southeast corner of Smith Inc. and North Loma Road. General plan map, once again, identifies it as mixed use. There we go. Quick, brief history. Existing zoning. Hasn't been a lot of zoning on this property or rezones. The original rezone from general rural to industrial was way back in 1963. In 2019 is when we received the application for this proposed mixed-use project that will include several uses, such as single-family for rent, multifamily residential, and then a true commercial, retail, and/or office mixed-use component. This PAD will create development standards, including setbacks, the restricted and permitted uses, parking ratio standards, and additional standards for the proposed private Main Street element that you'll see when I present the rest of the plan. It'll create the master development land use plan and all landscape, street design, phasing for each parcel. So lot 1, as you can see in the kind of green yellow color, is a proposed single family for rent product. This product will be further developed and will come back to the commission in a separate DRP proposal, design review permit. Right now, the lot is approximately 16 acres, and the preliminary plans that we have for the site that haven't been developed will be some sort of a single-family for rent product similar to bungalows on Bolin or some of the other projects that we've seen recently, with an amenity package, resort, swimming pool, clubhouse, single-story homes for rent. Lot 2, which is in the southwest corner, which is the orange color, it's going to be reserved for multifamily, an apartment complex, amenity package, swimming pool, social pavilion, exercise facilities. Once again, we'll come back in for its own separate site plan review. Lot 3, as we move up toward Smith Inc. Road, is going to be the true mixed-use component where we could see apartments, condos, townhouses, combined with commercial medical offices. We're looking for possible live-work units along the north of that lot where the private Main Street is located. Lot 4, we already preliminarily have plans for a gas station to come into Lot 4, which is right along the Smith Inc. Road frontage, and then a future user for the Lot 5 and the Lot 6 that are up at the very north of the property, northwest of the property. So first I'm just going to quickly talk about possible ideas, design guidelines for that single-family residential for rent product that's in yellow. If you look at the top of the screen there, it's outlined in red. This is a preliminary, very conceptual drawing of what could possibly land in this area with a conceptual elevation, just to show the commissioners the possible product that may end up there, and just know that we are going to be keeping in mind the same design guidelines that we expect for our single-family residences, mixture of materials and architecture, and I try to come with a very attractive product. For the multifamily, same kind of thing. We have some conceptual designs that may end up what the end product may end up looking like. As you can see, that the end product will likely be 3 stories, and will have a similar style of architecture as seen in these images. And then for the mixed-use section, as you can see, it's kind of some of these buildings exemplify a mixed-use building with residential on the upper floors and then some sort of commercial element along the bottom floor, whether that's a live-work type unit or just strictly commercial bottom floor, residential upper floors. And then I mentioned that private street design that's highlighted in red along the close to the northwest corner. That is going to be designed with walkability, community enjoyment in mind, as opposed to vehicular circulation. It's going to be designed in a way that encourages people to be able to go walk through that corridor and enjoy whatever commercial elements may be there at the time. Just a quick idea of the possible signage. So whatever comes in from the end user will have to have an attractive design, such as the ones that are shown here. Circulation. This product was, from the very get-go, pedestrian circulation and walkability was very important for the city because of the mixed-use nature of the development. So we're showing here is several different trail systems, including a main trail system that wraps around the entire property, which is shown in the blue. That's going to be an 8-foot wide stabilized DG trail. In addition, you have some true exterior sidewalk shown in purple. I'd like to mention that there will be a transit stop along Loma Road. So it's important to have that connectivity to Smith Inc. Road that will connect all the way down to Loma Road so that people can come down and use public transit. And in addition, you'll have interior sidewalks, 5-foot wide concrete interior sidewalks that connect all the different aspects of the property. And then lastly, you can see the pedestrian crossings are highlighted in brown. And that just further exemplifies the fact that the pedestrian and foot traffic and bike traffic are definitely going to be number one in this area, and try to slow down the vehicular movement through the private streets and the public street that comes off of Smith Inc. Road. Pedestrian access is very preliminary right now. We'll come to a good agreement when the individual site plans come in for review. Just a quick streets and sections circulation kind of gives us an idea of the different areas that I just highlighted, of how wide they would be. I would like to just quickly concentrate on letter C. As you can see, that's going to be a full, I believe it's 28 feet or 25 feet. I can't remember, I can't see it, but the buffer from the existing residential to the east, it's important to note that there will be a 25-foot buffer from that property line until there's actually the wall, and then an additional 10 feet of backyard. So the building itself, the houses will be approximately 35 feet from the existing residential property line, not to mention what houses are on where the houses are located currently on the existing, if that makes any sense. And just a quick detailed look at the roundabout further showing that it's a very well landscaped, traffic calming type of environment that we're going to be asking the developer to provide. So we did elicit public comment. This was advertised, notification letters were sent out. At the time that the staff, that we did not receive any formal comments regarding the request, except for well, actually that's not exactly true. We did have 2 comments that's in the staff report. However, we didn't include them in this presentation, but if you have any questions about them, I will be happy to answer questions. We had a neighborhood meeting minutes that are found in, is this? Yeah, okay, on page 6 of Exhibit E. So, as required by Section 18.180.040 City Zoning Code, we would like you guys to make the following findings and a recommendation to the City Council. The Commission is being asked to be the recommending body to City Council, who will ultimately be responsible to approve or deny the text amendments themselves. It's staff's opinion that the amendment is consistent with the general plan, subdivision ordinance, and any applicable master plans of the city. The site is physically suitable for the type and intensity of the land use being proposed. There are and will be adequate transportation facilities. The development carries out a more efficient use of the land and an excellence of architecture and site design. So with that said, I'd like to recommend approval of PAD case number PAD 19-03, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Oops. Back one. And I don't know how to go back one. Sorry about that. Questions?
It's fine. We have the applicant making a presentation as well, Rudy? No? Okay. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing, and then we'll get questions.
Okay, sounds good.
If anybody has any comments, questions, or concerns, come ahead and approach the podium, please, and we will leave it open for 1 minute.
Okay.
All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up to the commissioners, and we'll start with Commissioner Sharp. Commissioner Sharp, do you have any comments, questions?
No, thank you. I don't have any questions. I think this is an ideal project for this part of the city. I think seeing some growth in development where this is located is great. It seems to be pretty well thought out. So I applaud the applicant and their hard work working with the city of Maricopa. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's start down here, Commissioner Frank.
Could you go back to the slide that shows your street sections? There we go. Section B, what's the right-of-way shown there? I can't read it on my screen. Seems kind of fuzzy.
I believe that's a 50-foot right-of-way. I can't read it either.
Okay. I believe, yeah, it seemed when I looked at the packet, I was able to zoom in on one of the drawings, and it seemed kind of narrow. And so I'm concerned about it having enough right-of-way for future roadway corridors. The 238 is going to be a major linkage out to potentially the I-11 in the future. And the transportation master plan, if we just look at the proposed principal arterial cross-sections from that, I think it calls for a 75-foot half-street.
Commissioner Frank, thank you for the question. I'm going to defer to our city engineer who's present this evening to address the right-of-way widths.
Okay.
Good evening, Eduardo Rodales, city engineer. So this area is still under study. Our traffic impact analysis is still being reviewed, and we haven't taken a decision right now as if we're going to require more right-of-way or not, because there's another development coming around the area that we need to add that information and feed it to the traffic analysis and to ADOT. As you might know, 238 is ADOT's area, and we need to need to work with ADOT to determine the amount of right-of-way that we're going to get from them. Additionally, there's some regulations about trying to get right-of-way to the north, as that's not part of the city anymore. The city limit is there, so we are working on trying to get more right-of-way also on the north, not only to the south.
Okay, very good. Yeah, my concern was just not only our principal arterial sections, but also thinking ahead for ADOT and coordinating that, because in some planning studies, like the Hidden Valley Transportation Framework Study, et cetera, some of those big planning level documents, they're talking about this being a freeway type connection out. So it's, as long as you're coordinating with ADOT and thinking ahead for that's good.
Yes, we are still working with ADOT
Yeah.
closely. Any other comment?
Okay? Don't go away. That's what he said, don't go away.
Okay,
Commissioner
perfect.
Irving.
I'll be here.
Yeah, my concerns are along the same line. Has there been any thought about like a traffic light or something in that area? Because again, this by far and away, that one intersection at Smith Inc. and 247 is already the busiest one. And also thoughts about access from both the south and the north. Is there a way to get there through Edison? I guess, yeah, again, I totally agree with Commissioner Sharp. It's a great plan. My concern is that area develops, and we've had other projects out that way. I just don't think we're structured to handle the flow. And it's more of a question, sort of what Dan was talking about. I'm sure it's one of the issues we get all the time in Maricopa is our traffic. And of course you say as we grow, we're going to have it. But I just think if we could be a little more concrete and proactive, other than just simply saying, well, we're going to work with DOT. Like, to me, somebody's got to have thought about a light in there or something like that. I guess that's my concern, that when we present something like this with the great potential it has in that area, that we take into consideration the citizens traveling to the golf course and various things like that. I guess I'd like to see something a little more concrete than we're going to work with. Has anybody thought about the traffic flow or a light or something?
I can assure you that the traffic impact analysis has been reviewed every 3 times already, and we still haven't approved it because we have the same concerns as you. One of the things that we are concerned is about the traffic light between Loma Road and 238. According to the traffic impact analysis, it hasn't been warranted yet, but we believe that we will need this pretty soon as the area develops, and also because we are doing improvements on Edison Road that will create even more traffic flowing through Loma Road and 238. So we have the same concerns, and that's the reason we haven't even approved the traffic impact analysis, because it doesn't comply with our standards.
We can definitely take that into consideration. This is for the rezoning. We can definitely look at that impact when we get to the other parts, because this is just the rezoning. And no, it doesn't. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, but I mean, those type of details can be worked out later, because I mean, I had this basically the same question, because if you, can you go back a couple slides to the big overview of it? Maybe I was looking at the one that we were presenting. I think, isn't there a bigger one that shows more of the area? Yeah, that one. Yeah, you can see that we definitely do want to address the fact of the streetlights and whatnot, but as much as they do kind of go hand in hand, this is really just to look at the rezoning of it.
I guess I just think as we rezone, there's no reason for us not to be proactive and let the citizens know we're considering it as a total package. And before we rezone, to be able to guarantee that we've looked at this. That's all I'm saying, because I think they go together. It's a fantastic project, but we don't want to create issues for our citizens. So that's all I'm saying. I think they go together, and it's nice to get it up front to show, gee, they are considering this. That's all.
Totally agree with you, and I think that's something that the developers can take back with them when they're going to look at the next step, because that just tells them that no, I agree with you. That's just telling them that we're going to be a lot more selective on it. Yeah, so it's a great point, and this is definitely something they can look at as they move forward. Commissioner Yocum, anything?
Yes. The discussion on existing conditions, the FEMA study, flood and so forth and so on, there was a drainage study prepared by EPS Group, and I'm wondering the contents of that study, how do they deal with what they feel to be the shallow flooding between 1 to 3 feet?
According to the floodplain study that has been conducted, that will be reduced. It's still under review by FEMA, but will come back soon, and we'll be able to reduce that amount of flow.
Okay. My next, I'm also concerned about the traffic flow, and especially the traffic light that we're discussing at State Route 238 in Loma. I know the material that you gave us suggests that it was the staff study that stated that we would not need a light now, but maybe one would be necessitated as we had continued construction there. I feel that we should keep a really close look on that situation once we start the developing. And finally, in the neighborhood meeting, Mr. Steve Houston, one of the residents, brought up a concern as to how many of the apartments were going to be constructed at one time, and I believe they're coming in 40-piece units, 40-piece lots. And he was concerned about the construction equipment, noise and dirt, dust and so forth. And I strongly urge you to take a very close look and keep a close handle on that progress.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hopkins?
No questions.
Thank you.
All right. I just want to echo, this is a great project. A couple things that, take into consideration, this is just a request to rezone, and looking at the entire packet, and I understand that we haven't seen that part yet, but another thing outside of what has been echoed on the transportation side to take a look at is also pedestrian exits or entrances, whichever way you want to look at pedestrian access points. I know that's something that within those slides there was information there, but I think that needs to be looked at as well. But again, I'll divert to that later. And then I just want to commend the fact of the buffer for the subdivision next door, because that's a bone of contention that I've heard from. So I appreciate that width on that. And the fact that all of those are slated to be single stories is also another good point as well. And I understand the fact that it's hard to determine the traffic flow at this point because it's a vacant area. And how many cars are going to go through at full build out is really just a stab in the dark, so to speak. So outside of that, I don't have any other questions, but this is an action for the commission to take as well.
So moved.
All right, there is a motion and a second. Any additional comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Sorry about that. So moved. Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing that project move forward.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, 5.2, public hearing, text amendment TAX 20-05, a request by the City of Maricopa for review and approval of major text amendments to the City of Maricopa Single-Family Residential Design Guidelines, discussion and action, and I do have a speaker card for that, and we'll hold off on that until after the presentation, as well as public hearing.
Thank you, Chair Huggins. Commissioners. There we go. Whoop, too far. Okay, so this is sorry, my line about the commission being asked to be a recommending body to the city council who will be ultimately responsible to approve or deny the text amendments was meant for this one. I apologize for saying that in the previous presentation.
I think we all knew
So
what
we're
you
here
meant.
today to look at the Single-Family Residential Design Guidelines Major Text Amendment, TXT 20-05. I'm not going to reiterate everything we went through last commission meeting. However, just the overall intent of this text amendment is to provide a periodic update that is needed to keep up with just the changing development practices and, more importantly, feedback and things that we get from both the development community and from the residents themselves. Also to ensure that these guidelines represent the goals of the city and its residents, and to expedite the development process to help guide developers and home builders by providing this framework so that we can really offer a variety of diverse, attractive housing products, floor plans, and architectural styles. The request today is a request by the City of Maricopa. This is an amendment to the City of Maricopa Single-Family Residential Design Guidelines, an update. We did have some stakeholder input in this. 4 individual stakeholder comments and suggestions were received. We also received comments from former council members, the Homebuilders Association of Central Arizona, Jackson Mole, who's present here today, some land developers and property owners, as well as the commissioners. Thank you very much for all of your feedback as well. Didn't put that in here, but thank you. The comments were incorporated for the most part, almost fully incorporated. We really tried really hard to incorporate everybody's ideas. So that's Exhibit B of the staff report that was provided. Provided the comments shown, specifically where they were implemented, is Exhibit B, and then the clean draft, which is Exhibit C. Like I said before, we did a public outreach. We contacted the stakeholders previously spoken of. We also had a 30-day public review period. It was posted on the city's website with the ability for citizens to leave a comment for staff through our Maricopa Participates blog forum. We did receive 2 comments that are included in that staff report during that 30-day period. On March 2nd, the City Council will review the text amendment recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they'll decide whether to approve or deny the possible adoption of this update. With that said, staff recommends approval of case text 20-05 as proposed by staff and the comments received from the public and the commission to be shared with City Council for their review and approval. Any questions?
Question from the commission? Commissioner Sharp, do you have any questions?
Madam Chair?
I don't. I believe my question is for the text amendment, but I think we have to open it up to the public.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there's no questions on the presentation first. Yep. So yeah, let's go ahead. We do have a speaker card for that, so we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. And I've got a speaker card from Jackson Mole.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. My name is Jackson Mall. I'm the Vice President of Municipal Affairs for the Homebuilders Association of Central Arizona. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight to speak on the updated design guidelines. In our original comment letter, which I believe has been provided to you, we focused on 4 areas of concern. Number 1, to provide builders with flexibility to respond to rapidly changing market conditions, evolving consumer preferences, and unique construction challenges. Number 2, ensure a transparent, predictable, and efficient approval process. Number 3, to craft design guidelines which reflect the practicalities of the home building and residential development business model in Arizona. And 4th, to maintain housing affordability for working families in Maricopa and the enhanced quality of life that comes with home ownership. Fortunately, the revisions made in this second draft largely addressed our specific concerns. We appreciate the city's willingness to consider our comments and to make the needed revisions. However, there are a few additional revisions needed mostly for clarity, consistency, and some additional flexibility. We will continue to work with the city in the same collaborative fashion that we have up to this point to hopefully address those issues prior to the March 2nd council meeting. So once again, I want to express our appreciation to the city staff and to the commission for the opportunity to participate in the update process and to be here in person with you this evening. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Sharp, any questions for him?
No, none at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, anybody else would like to approach during the public hearing? That being said, we'll close the public hearing. All right, commissioners, any questions, comments? Commissioner, let's start on this side. Commissioner Hopkins. Mike's not on.
No.
Commissioner Yoakum? Sharp?
No questions.
Irving? No questions. Commissioner Frank?
None for me, thank you.
I'm fine. With that being said, this is an action item as well.
Move approval.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion.
Seconded.
Thank you, Commissioner Sharp. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you very much. All right, 5.3, PH 21-03, public hearing, text amendment TX 20-04, a request by the City of Maricopa for the review and approval of minor text amendments to the City of Maricopa zoning code, discussion and action.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'd like to do the presentation and then we'll go into the public hearing for open and closing of the public hearing.
Sorry?
Oh,
Am I out of it, or did
yes.
I want to make sure?
You did.
I'm sorry, say that one more
Sorry,
time.
I'm going to do the presentation first and then we'll go open up for public hearing, open and close it. Madam Chair, Commissioner, this text amendment request 20-04 request by the City of Maricopa, amendments to the City of Maricopa zoning code, which is specifying these specific chapters of the zoning code, the mixed-use heritage, a brand-new section of the South Bridge overlay, general site regulations, standards for specific uses, commission committees and boards, common procedures, use classifications, lighting, on-site parking, loading, and waiver section. This is considered somewhat of a minor code update after a 5-year utilization of the zoning code for the past 5+ years. The intent of this text amendment is to revise statements for clarity, modify restrictive standards, reduce ambiguous and contradicting statements, and also to look at ways of adding alternative design standards that meet general purpose and intent of the code. And lastly is to update in accordance to recent Arizona revised state statutes. Some such amendments include modifying public outreach within the Heritage District, again, the new overlay for the South Bridge area, reducing the minimum building heights within the mixed-use heritage, added design standards for shopping cart utilization, the mobile merchants, the restructure of the mobile merchants to reference and matching to Arizona revised state statutes, the revised notifications areas from 300 feet to 600 feet, notices written in both English and Spanish, shipping containers, utilizations throughout the city with design enhancements, and then also design enhancements for street and on-site parking in reference to street lighting. And then lastly is the continued flexibility providing for commercial developments, increasing waiver standards from 10% to 20% for setbacks and other dimensional standards of the city zoning code. This project timeline we initiated this process with the commission back in March of 2020. It took us a good 6 months, and with the pandemic and workload, coming back to the commission on December 17th to start the 30-day public review. That's when we got our first draft of the zoning code. And then we presented at P&Z Commission on the 11th of this year for discussion only, to somewhat of a reading of those proposed changes, which you did get some good feedback from the comments from the public, stakeholders, and the commission as well. February 8th is today, and we're here to come back to you with those feedback we got for action tonight, and then this will go to City Council for hearing and action on March 2nd. Correction on that on the presentation from March 6th. So as required by the city zoning code, notification via public hearing process is required for any text amendments of the code. We did do some additional outreach methods, such as contacting over 50 stakeholders that we have generated over the past 5 years, working with developers, architects, engineers, landscape architects. We have a master list of every application project we've worked with, so use that resource as a stakeholder list of the cities. Provided opportunity for a 30-day public review period of the draft text amendment, which is not required by code, but we want to make sure that we are getting at least some feedback consensus out there from the development world and also stakeholders. And then also, lastly, the legal public notices in both the local circulator, Maricopa Monitor, and the Casa Grande Dispatch. On March 2nd, the City Council will review this text amendment recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission as our advisory recommending body to the City Council for their approval and possible adoption. To jump into the public comments that we received since the last time we met, and the standards for specific uses for daycare facilities, we did get some recommendation for providing additional traffic information should be required as part of that regulation. Restricting front yard playgrounds to have no higher of a height of 3.5 feet. There's a notion already intended in there where front yard playgrounds, it shouldn't be allowed in the front yard, so we already have a height limit of 3.5 feet for any type of walls in the front yard, so automatically any playgrounds will be sited in the back of or the rear of a property. Also, the recommendation of having an administrative process where city staff will continue to share approved licensed facilities with HOAs within the city. In terms of standards for youth food and beverage sales, this is in regards to the shopping cart ordinance. After consulting further with other staff members of the city and legal, we actually recommend that this section be currently just somewhat deferred or referenced to a new title, Title 5 of the City Code, that's currently being drafted as a separate text amendment of the City Code. There, it will have all the definitions and regulations and retrieval programs for the shopping cart ordinances of the city. After consulting with our staff and legal, it would be better suited that we just simply reference the City Code section that's currently drafted at a later date. Landscaping, there was I think Commissioner Yoakum mentioned this, that was a statement in section 18.90030. The language was a little awkward there, so we revised it to any parking area landscaping that exceeds the minimum requirements of the code shall be counted as open space. We kind of cleaned it up there so it makes a little bit more sense, and thank you Commissioner Yoakum for pointing that out. We got feedback on the Technical Advisory Committee where we listed a whole gambit of advisory committees from every individual type of organization out there. We generalize that to more open-ended, and you'll see, and what we want to do in there is make it more general and not list specific entities in there. So with that recommendation, we're going to draft it to a little bit more generic list of entities versus specific. The revised allowance so that waivers of fees can only be granted by either an approved development agreement or by City Council. There was a waiver section in there, who approves waivers was very somewhat by city staff or the city manager or his or her designee. We actually revised it so it'd be a little bit more specific that only council or through a development agreement can waivers be granted. So it's a little bit more specific versus just more generally staff can make those waivers. So we clarify that. Enhanced it, but more direction from either done by a development agreement with the city or by City Council. Base zoning districts, modify alternative design standards. We got recommendation that we either modify alternative design standards, specify standards instead of a blanket catch-all statement, or revise the current language to read as the following, where the zoning administrator may evaluate and possibly accept or recommend to the decision-making body alternative design requirements to meet the intent and the spirit of the code and other applicable policy documents of the city of Maricopa. The recommendation we got from the public is to either do one or the other, either specify the actual specified standards that need some alternative design standards, or have some more teeth to it in terms of criteria, what it means to accept an alternative design to recommend to the decision-making body that meets the intent and policies of the city. And then to further support additional opportunities for flexibility in the code, staff does recommend increasing the waiver section for setbacks and other dimensional standards from 10% to 20%. And then lastly, as part of our feedback was, in terms of Heritage District Advisory Committee, was to not delete the references to the Heritage District Advisory Committee. We do want to inform, again, I reiterate that we did receive some common support of holding less restrictive neighboring meetings and formal Robert Rules of Order from former Heritage District Advisory Committee meetings from the committee members actually in support of this, which our director, Nathan Steele, may want to just... I'll hop in. Okay. Okay. If anything, there was some feedback on that regarding that as well. And with that, staff recommends approval of case number TXT 20-04 as proposed by staff, and the comments received from the public and the commission to be shared with the city council for their review and approval. Madam Chair, commissioners, at this time, I suggest that we go ahead and just open up the public hearing for any public comments, or be happy to answer any questions prior to that.
All right, let's go ahead and open up the public hearing on this text amendment TX 20-04. Anybody would like to make any comments, please approach the podium. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. All right, commissioners, any comments? Let's start with Commissioner Sharp.
I do. These are some of the things that we've talked about in the past, but I really want to address the 300 to 600 foot notification. I know this is something that as a body we've talked about on numerous occasions, and occasionally we have requested that a developer on an ad hoc basis notify residents or other entities within 600 feet. But when we codify that, I have a couple of questions. The first question is, who bears the brunt of that expense? And second, has there been any research done on what the impact would be? So for example, if within 300 feet you would have to contact 150 residents, does by some mathematics, it ends up being 800 residents, thereby burdening the developer or the applicant with sending out mass mailings? And then can we address that in a different manner, perhaps with some kind of public forum? I just kind of want to make sure that we're not just doubling a number and not understanding the true impact.
I can speak on that if that's what you'd like. Okay.
Please go ahead.
I'm for those listening at home or in the cloud, I'm Nathan Steele. I'm the Director of Economic and Community Development. When it comes to the noticing, state law minimum for different zoning cases is 300 feet. You'll see that in a lot of cities because that's the minimum. When it comes to staff impact, if it were to be 300 feet or 600 feet or 5 billion feet, the impact on staff is pretty much the same, because when we're making our map where we determine that notification radius, we just plug in what you want the radius to be. That generates a list of all of the addresses. You plug it into a mail merge, and we can send that information to a developer. It would then be the responsibility of the developer to go and contact each of the addresses listed there. Like the slides before showed, all these text amendments were sent to all the various stakeholders. We haven't received any significant concern either way. Staff doesn't have a strong opinion either way, because the impact on our time, 300 or 600 or 1,000 feet, whatever it might be, there isn't really a strong impact. It would be completely up to the Planning and Zoning Commission and then the City Council on what that would be.
I think his question was what would be a potential larger impact on the cost for the developer. Is that correct, Commissioner Sharp?
It is correct. I mean, thank you for answering the question on what the impact is for city staff. I think that was an important component of my overall question, if you will. But again, when you go from 300 to 600 feet, again, you could easily go from having to notify 150 people to 4 times that, because you've expanded the radius by double.
Yep.
So again, we have to be aware and cognizant. Again, and I'm agnostic on it. I just want to make sure that we're aware that there is a cost that's associated with this that'll be borne out by developers, and we're seeking to gain developer activity in the city. So we just want to be aware of the impact.
Right. The impact that would be is the additional cost of printing and mailing, and that's going to differ project by project, whatever the cost of stamps and other printing materials would be. In the grand scope of developments, most of that is going to be nominal, but there might be the occasional case where it does make a bigger impact. So it's hard to do a full-blown analysis on that because every project is different. If it's on the outskirts of the city, there might be, even if you expand it by 600 feet, the only neighbors live west of the development. Or it might be in the middle of the city where you are expanding it by 4 times or more. It really differs project by project so much it's hard to give a good analysis on what that cost would be. All I know is that it would be most likely limited to mailing and printing.
Gotcha. And I just wanted us, again, as a body, to be aware that there is an impact. It's not just as easy as plugging in a number that ends up being double. There is an impact happens further down the trough. I guess, is there a way that we could offer a waiver if it would result in significant impact as far as cost that could be proven?
That would be one thing that would have a staff impact, because that would be calculating what is the definition of significant impact. Is it a dollar amount? Is it a percentage of the total cost of the project? And that would be something that staff would recommend not doing, because that adds extra steps to the calculation process that isn't as necessary as other things.
Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, let's start on this side. Commissioner Frank. Commissioner Yoakum.
Yes, I'd like to both thank and compliment staff for addressing the issues that we brought up at the prior meetings. I'm really impressed. I had brought up 5 different situations, and every one of them was addressed by you this evening, and I thank you.
Commissioner Hopkins.
I don't have any comments.
I only wanted to say, in echoing what Commissioner Sharp was talking about, because everybody knows the 600 feet is my baby. Thank you for putting that in there. I understand what he's talking about, and it would definitely be, could be a burden if we're talking about something that's being done in the heart of the city. But I think this was really more geared toward when we're developing on the outskirts and trying to bring the city more stuff, when we're trying to make sure that we're getting our hands out as far as possible. So I do appreciate what you're doing. The other thing that I was really pleased to see was the fact that we are actually receiving public comments outside of just stakeholders. I mean, yes, they're called stakeholders, so let me rephrase that. So we're receiving other things other than just developers and staff, and I was just really pleased to see that our constituents are actually looking at this stuff and commenting on this stuff, so it was really nice. So with that, I don't have anything else, and this is an action item for the commission.
If I may just share one more thing as before we jump into the vote. I wanted to clarify what it is that we're voting on this evening. This is a formal recommendation rather than an action to approve, because the next step is the city council who will be voting to codify this, meaning putting it into the zoning code. One of the things we worked on this year was looking at how do we spend our time? How is it that we are making best use of really the taxpayer dollars, which is the staff time here, how we do this. And we thought, rather than come before you with the one little zoning code amendment, and then another one in 3 months, then another one in 2 months, let's take the year and write down all of the things as we're coming across that, so that we can tackle all of them at once. And so this might be something that you'll see every January and February is this laundry list. It sounds overall that this process works. It makes sense to kind of combine it together, but I would love to hear your feedback maybe after the meeting to see if you think this works or if you prefer to do multiple ones individually throughout the year. I'm interested to hearing about that with all of you. Regarding the one item of the Heritage District Committee, when we did hear from the public, I did want to say I spoke earlier with Grace Gomez, who is a member of the Heritage District Committee. She was unable to attend tonight and was unable to prepare any letter, but she did give me permission to come and just summarize the conversation we had. So that's what I want to do right now with her permission. As a member of the committee, she is in support of removing the Heritage District Committee from the zoning code and rather focus instead on these neighborhood meetings. One of the reasons is over the past couple of years, we've had better attendance at the neighborhood meetings rather than the formal Heritage District Committee meetings. It allowed for a greater flow of discussion, having maps up and have multiple staff there so they can talk one-on-one with members of the neighborhood and members of the whole Heritage District, rather than having the formal, it's public comment time, let me give my time and then go sit down. You know, sometimes, even though these meetings are great, that extra level of formality actually deters productive discussion. And so that is really the reason behind this initiative, to remove that from the zoning code. It doesn't decrease the number of neighborhood meetings. If anything, it increases it because it's going to be more of workshop form within the Heritage District. And so Grace Gomez did express her support for that. So that was what was listed there. The recommendation that staff is recommending that the board make tonight is vote to approve the ordinance as presented, along with consideration of all of the comments that were made, so the council can see all of the different comments while they make their ultimate decision. So that's all for that.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm just going to kind of echo that. I think doing it once a year is actually more efficient, not only for commission's sake as well as city staff, but it actually will help the city council because then they're not looking at it all the time as well. So I think once a year for major items is great. Now, of course, if there's a huge, big emergency, then yeah, I can see that. But no, I think it's definitely, good. Shervy.
So I guess, why couldn't you have it both ways?
I tend to echo that, and if I can just kind of piggyback on top of that, in my humble opinion, I think that he's right in the sense that having it be a formal part of what we do allows it on face to show that we still care about the Heritage Committee, the Heritage District, and we want that to survive and thrive. End of the day, if you want to have a town hall meeting versus a formal meeting, you can do that. You don't have to. There's nothing stating the fact that the Heritage District Committee needs to meet once a year or twice a year or every other quarter. There's nothing stating the fact that there's a mandatory meeting number. It just means that that committee is still standing. Now, is there a period of time where that committee may not have members? Sure, but the ability to have that is still on the face of the documents, still created. If for whatever reason it needs to come back alive, it's there. We don't have to go through the steps. I think that's just important for the city of Maricopa to have that. We want to keep that strong tie to our heritage, at least in my humble opinion. So I would echo his thoughts and say that it needs to stay as is. Doesn't have to be created and be used all the time, but just stay as is. We understand what she's saying, and I agree with her at times, but I think that we need to keep it there, and I would recommend that the council as well keep it there. All right, any other comments, questions? This is, like I said, an action item to move forward to city council with this stuff.
Approval as submitted.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, next item, number 6, reports from commission and/or staff.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the only thing I would like to update you guys is I think by the next P&Z Commission meeting, we should be at a stage to elect a new vice chair and chair. The bylaws did get approved by council at the last regularly scheduled meeting, so that they get approved. And my understanding, appointments for, if you went ahead and reapply with the city council for your appointments, I believe that's going to be fairly soon on the next council agenda. But just keep in mind for election of vice chair and chair, we'll probably schedule that for the first meeting in March, will be March 8th. And I think we do have a couple case items in March. No, actually, I'm sorry, it might be April. So we'll double check on our side of the first scheduled meeting, because I know we have a zoning case coming back too, and sometime in April. So it may be April or March, but we'll confirm that via separate email to confirm the dates of the next scheduled P&Z Commission meeting. Madam Chair, Commissioners, that's all I have for now.
So no April 22nd meeting? I mean, excuse me.
Yeah, no February
Wow.
meeting.
Threw that right 2 months ahead. Okay, so we take that. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn at, what time is it? 7:03. I was like, you guys want to stay, or?
Let's stay.
Is there a second?
Talk about stuff.
Is there a second? Come on, guys.
Second.
Okay, Irving, thank you.
Second.
Sharp. You guys are scaring me. You guys want to stay. All those in favor for adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
Aye.
thank you. Well, you guys want to stay all night?